What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Ricky Warwick here. Thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. So we got the brand new album, "When Life Was Hard and Fast." Do you just want to talk about like how the making of this record was, like what the thought process was making it, and the was there like a preconceived idea? How did "When Life Was Hard and Fast" sort of come to be?
Sure. I'd been waiting for a break in the touring with Blackstar Writers and Thin Lizzy. I'd a bunch of ideas together. And last year, finally got a bit of time at home and got in touch with Keith Nelson. People know Keith. Keith used to be the guitar player in Buck Cherry for many years. And Keith and I pretty much co-wrote the album, and we co-produced it together. We recorded it here in Los Angeles in April of last year. We wrote about 15, 16 songs, whittled those down to the ones that are on the album. We wanted, Keith and I both love loud guitars. Keith's got a massive collection of vintage guitars, so it was never not going to be anything than a in-your-face anthemic rock and roll album. And that's what we really set out to do, and put together a great little band, recorded it as live as possible, and here we are.
Was maybe like an intention to maybe combine your experiences with Black Star Riders and Thin Lizzy and the Almighty with elements of Buck Cherry, or were you both kind of trying to step into like uncharted territory in a way?
No, I think we were just being who we are, and that's in our DNA. The BSR Almighty, Lizzy stuff is in my DNA. Keith's the Buck Cherry stuff. We both just love rock and roll, and I think we have a similar taste and influences, and we're both blue collar boys, working class boys. I'm brought up in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Keith's from a small town in Pennsylvania, and I think we just a love of real rock and roll, and I think that's what just inspired us to want to make this record. Was everything that inspired us as growing up as kids and stuff that we were into. All those influences, just bring them all in, and anything kind of went.
Mhm. I really love the title "When Life Was Hard and Fast" because a lot of people think when life is hard, it's like slow, it's tedious. Like I know some artists really hate being asked this, but I am very curious. Is there like sort of like a message or like a deeper meaning behind sort of like the title of this?
Yeah, I wrote the song with a really good buddy of mine that I grew up with in Belfast in Northern Ireland, a guy called Sam Robinson, and he wrote pretty much all the lyrics for it, and I wrote the music. And we wrote about growing up in Northern Ireland in the 70s and 80s and the backdrop of the Troubles and what it was like then. The first line is, we grew up together along a rain-lashed road. I mean, it rains all the fucking time in Ireland. And that was our youth, and there was no internet, there was no staring at the phone for 17 hours a day. There was, you got chucked out the house in the morning, you played in the streets till the sun went down, you get your hands and knees dirty, and it was great, it was just great. And it was just, and we used to dream about being soccer stars or being in bands or getting out and seeing the world. And that was our life. And that's really the essence of what the song is about.
Yeah, I've noticed that there was like many different vibes from just listening to this album, like with a track like "You Don't Love Me" to a track like "Fighting Hard" to a track like "Still Alive" or "Clown of Misery." Like, was there like many different emotions felt through the course of the making of this album?
Yeah, I write, I like to think that I write from the heart, and I can't write about things that I don't know. So I write about what I think, what I feel, what my opinions are, what's happening to my friends, stories they've told me, places they've been to, everything that's affected me, and all the songs are very personal. They're all about someone or something that's happened in my life, whether it be, a week before I wrote the song or back in a memory that comes up from 30 years ago, like when life was hard and fast when we were kids. So it's all very personal stuff, and it's all just an observation on, I guess, my take on my life and what's going on around me.
Do you like to leave the album open to interpretation, or being that you really do put your heart and soul into it, that maybe you try to maybe engage the listener into the story?
No, I think that's the beauty of it. I mean, I was, I obviously have a specific subject in mind when I'm writing the song, but if it means something totally different to somebody else, totally cool with that. That's the beauty of art. It's all subjective, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, what I like is, music to be open to interpretation, but I think like when the music itself is so good, like listeners like to be engaged into like what, like the artist was
Yeah,
feeling with it. So I'd imagine
sure.
that, if like people want to know like the meaning behind Gunslinger or I'd rather be hit, you wouldn't have a problem explaining it or anything like that, right?
Not at all. I mean, I could tell them what it meant to me when the song was being written, and if they went, "Oh, well, really? It means something completely different to me." I'm like, "Cool, that's great. If that's what it means to you, that's what it means." But here's what it actually means when I was writing it. So
Yeah. But when you have a source of inspiration,
I think a lot of people. You get people.
oh, you're saying?
Sorry, I was going to say you get a lot of people that dive into the lyrics and want to know what it's about and want to dissect every phrase, and that's great. And you obviously get the people that don't care; they just want the melody and then sing a little bit. And really couldn't care what it's about, and I'm happy either way.
Yeah, definitely. You got the best of both worlds, I feel like, with this album.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, and when you like have these sources of inspiration that you write about, especially when you have it for a long time, do you find that maybe like when you like are finally getting to the songwriting process, but you have the idea in the back of your mind for a long time, do you maybe find it harder to like capture a moment, or do you kind of have to like dig a little bit deeper than when you first thought of the idea sometimes?
That's a great question. Yeah, things change all the time. I'm a firm believer sometimes that the first train of thought is the best. Same thing, sometimes you pick up a guitar, the first riff you play, you could play it for the rest of the day and not better that first guitar riff that you write when you pick it up. And actually two of the songs on the album are demos. We tried to re-record them and couldn't better that vibe that we captured on the demo. A song like Clown of Misery is basically, it's the iPhone. It's me singing in the iPhone. That's what's on there. Just as is. Me putting the idea when I first thought of it, we put it on a record. And a song like Time Don't Seem to Matter is the demo. We went in to try and recreate the buzz of when we first wrote that song. Couldn't do it. So the demo ended up going on there. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm a firm believer in you're capturing something. And sometimes trying to recapture it, you can't do it. You just can't do it.
Especially because I'd imagine as an artist, inspiration sometimes strikes at the most inconvenient times too, right?
It can do, yeah. I'm pretty regimented. I mean, being a family guy and having kids, and you sort of have to take it when you can get it, and I treat it like a job because it is a job. And I get up, I write every day, Alex. And even if at the end of that day, what I've written is crap, at least I feel I've done something. I've gone to work. So I'll get up and, in a normal world, the kids out the door, get breakfast made, maybe work out for an hour or something. And then I hit my little studio and I know I've got 5 hours till the kids come back from school. And that's my window to create. And I love that. I love that having that, 5 days a week. And then I'll purposely, that doesn't mean say I'll not be sitting on a fucking toilet or in a shower and an idea will come and I'm like, oh shit, that happens. But I'll save it up for the next morning till I can get into my little studio and start working on it, And that just works for me. It is a job and I like to treat it like a job with the respect that it deserves.
Yeah, definitely. I've always said that there should be a law that if you're a pilot, you cannot be an artist because I'm always worried that they're going to be inspired like as they're like approaching the tarmac and then they get distracted and like
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody was so excited.
Oh, there's definitely been
Everybody was so stoked when Bruce Dickinson was like flying that plane. I was terrified. I was scared. I was like, "Oh man, I hope he doesn't think of any ideas upon takeoff."
Well, if anybody can multitask, it's Bruce Dickinson. That's a man of many, many talents. So I think he could probably fly the plane, do his fencing, write a novel, and give an inspirational speech, and sing Iron Maiden all at the same time. I think that'll be no problem for Bruce.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he just replaced all those flight controls with like a mixing console or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, that'd be a good idea, actually. A studio slash airplane cockpit.
Yeah, I know. How cool would that be? Hey, I wouldn't rule anything out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Being that you are such a prolific artist, between your solo stuff and the Almighty and Thin Lizzy and Blackstar Writers and all that, is there a different mind frame depending on the project that you are working with, or is there maybe like a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything?
You know, I just kind of instinctively know what I'm going to bring to the guys in Blackstar Riders and what I'm not. I don't really know how that is or why it is. I just will write something and go, this is definitely something I want Scott, excuse me, or Chris to play on, you know, or I want them to take this idea further. You know, there's obviously certain things that people expect from Blackstar Riders, and I'm very aware of that. And there's certain songs that, you know, I just know aren't going to work for Blackstar Riders, and I'll keep them for myself. There's been a couple of times where I've played Scott Gorham some of my solo stuff, and I've got the raised eyebrow, kind of going, "Really? Why didn't you give that to us?" You know. So that's only happened a couple of times, but I just know, you know, I think when I'm writing a song for Blackstar Riders, I'm very aware that there's four other people going to take that idea and run with it. So maybe I wouldn't go as far with it on my own as I would. Obviously, when I'm writing on my own, I can finish the whole thing or do what the hell I want to do with it. With Blackstar Riders, I'm going, okay, this is a cool riff. I got a lyric. Let's get the guys involved and let's move it on from that. Obviously, with the solo stuff, you can just go the whole way with it.
Yeah, it's really cool working with different musicians and working with different artists has always got to open your mind to different ideas on what to bring into either your solo stuff or vice versa, right?
Yeah, you know, you're like a sponge. You never stop learning. You never stop soaking things up, and your influences are your influences, and that's just a never expanding universe, you know, because you're just listening to stuff all the time, and even if you've listened to a band 100 times, one day you might hear something in there you never heard before, and that could inspire an idea or something like that. And you know, I listen to music constantly, and all kinds of different music. You know, everything from Slayer to the Four Tops and everything in between. You know, so it's great.
Yeah,
It's good to expand your horizons. You know.
definitely. Definitely. And kind of like going back to like, the meaning of this album and like, these concepts, is there ever a time where maybe like the idea or the meaning of the song could influence the music itself, or do you need like a composition before you have like before lyrics come into place or anything like that?
No, not at all. A lot of time the lyrics come first, and then you know it's reams of books, and I guess it's iPad now filled with notes and ideas, and I'll start playing something and I'll start going through and go, maybe that lyrical or that idea will go with this riff, and that's usually how it comes about. Or again, like I said, I pick up the guitar and just start singing something over the top of something. There's no sort of set agenda. It comes in any form, any idea, and kind of anything goes, whether it be a lyric, a guitar riff, or both, or a melody, or just whatever works.
Yeah. And have you ever had like has there ever been like the best lyrics ever, but then they're always like one syllable over the arrangement of every song?
Oh God, don't get me started. I mean, I can agonize over lyrics for days, and 9 times out of 10, I'll go back to the first thing I wrote, as I'm sure a lot of artists will tell you that they do. You know, as I've got older and I've got sort of more experience of writing songs, the sort of phonetics of making things work is more important to me. Before I just go, I'm not changing it because I can't change the words because it's going. You're gonna. This is what I'm saying, and it has to stay like that, even though it doesn't quite rhyme or it overlaps or doesn't fit. I'm not. No, I'm like, no. Let's make it flow. Let's make it nice. Let's make so people can, understand it and connect with it a bit more. And I think that's more in my psyche now than it was, maybe 20 years ago when I was writing.
I've always wondered what it was about rhyming because every genre, whether it's, old school swing music or it's grindcore, it seems like rhyming is always like essential in lyrics. I've always wondered where that idea came from because I agree that when you rhyme, it does in fact give it more oomph and gives it a little bit more strength. But I really wonder, like, how much weaker would a song be if the words did not rhyme in the chorus or in the verse or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can do it. Again, it's what we've come to expect. We just expect certain things to rhyme. It's the phonetics. It's what's pleasing to the ear. I guess. I think there's a cleverness to it as well that people like. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try and write a song that doesn't rhyme and find out.
and see if it and see
Right?
you got to listen to the reviews of that one, because you got to see like if
You know what? I'll probably end up being the biggest song I've ever written as well. Wouldn't that be funny? That the way you know what I'm saying?
you'll start a trend. You will start a trend. Rhyming in songs are so not cool anymore. You would definitely
Yeah, man.
a lot of artists would greatly appreciate that, because it is kind of dictating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you never know, man.
Yep. And I have two more questions for you. You ready for the most difficult question
Sure,
of the
bro.
whole interview?
Go ahead.
How
Yep.
do, how do you know when a song is done?
You just know. You just have to walk away from it. Again, you can get so down the rabbit hole in writing songs and drive yourself insane. I'm pretty good at just going, that's it, and walking away from it and demoing it and moving on. Because I'm like I said earlier, I'm all about capturing something, and I'm very aware of that. And I think you lose the passion and the moment if you overthink things too much. So when it feels done. It feels right. It feels that is this right? Am I happy with this? Can I sit down and play it the whole way through? That's very important to me. If I can sit down and play it the whole way through on an acoustic guitar and sing it, if it was just me singing it to one person, here's this song, boom, I can play it the whole way without having to stop and go, not sure about this bit, or once I can sit and play it the whole way through, I know it's done.
Yeah, and I think being that your music is straight up rock and roll, it does have kind of like, and I'm by no way am I saying that it's formulaic, but like there is kind of like a structure that
Sure.
works for it.
Yep.
A verse, chorus, a guitar solo or something like that. If it's like if it's a band like Dream Theater where the songs like have no parts that are similar to each other, and the song's like 27 and a half minutes, then it's a little bit harder to sort of figure that out. But I feel like you have kind of like a rock and roll integrity and discipline to know when to walk away from it.
Yeah, and that stuff's all well and good, and that kind of stuff has its place, and that's great. That's just not what I'm into. The songwriters and the musicians that inspire me are the guys that write those great 4-minute rock and roll songs.
Yeah.
That are, I don't want to use the word simple, because they're not. I mean, they're genius, and that's why they're so good. The Springsteens, Dylans of this world, Phil and Lizzie, a great example of a great songwriter, and tell a story and get your point across in 3-4 minutes. The music that I love is all those artists that can tell you everything you need to know and move you in those 4 minutes, not 35 minutes. I mean, I can listen to some prog rock. I've got no problem with it, but it's just not who I am and what I'm into,
Yeah, to each his own. Everybody has their own tastes, and I think people.
Yeah.
Art has many different languages, and therefore it has many different tastes and many different interpretations. As much, with the different types of art that there is in the world, there's also going to be many different tastes and many different interpretations of it, which is what I think is the beautiful thing about it. Art changes people, and people can change art.
Exactly. No, well said. Couldn't agree more. It's all subjective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed this discussion. Is there
Thanks, Alex.
Just finally, is there
Thank you.
anything with the release of this album that you would like to promote? Maybe some live stream performances to hold people over, or anything else you would like to plug?
Yeah, we're planning a full band live stream playthrough of the album. That'll be going out in February, so stay tuned to check out the date for that once we have it finalized. But that'll be a full band live stream performance, start to finish of the album, which we're looking forward to. And there's a new video drops very soon for the track "You Don't Love Me," filmed out in the Joshua Tree Desert. So that's dropping soon. And just thank you, and please check out the record.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Ricky. Everybody, we are here with Ricky Warwick. Be sure to check out "When Life Was Hard and Fast," coming out very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.